This is day 6 of this July 2025 7-day sesshin. We're going to take up another koan today. This is from the Shoyoroku, translated as both sometimes the Book of Serenity and sometimes the Book of Equanimity. Both are wonderful, rich concepts in Buddhism. The word equanimity is in other Buddhist traditions is considered one of the 4 divine abodes. And rather than trying to define that, just the other 3 besides equanimity are metta, loving kindness, karuna, compassion, mudita, which is sympathetic joy, and equanimity is considered the highest of the 4. Evenness, utter evenness of mind, non-reactivity. This is number 20, and it's called Dizang's Most Intimate. Dizang asked Fayan, "Where are you going?" Fayan said, "I am wandering on pilgrimage." Dizang said, "What are you on pilgrimage for?" Fayan said, "I don't know." Dizang said, "Not knowing is the most intimate." And at that, Fayan was suddenly enlightened. So we'll start with some biographical information about Dizang. He's listed in this book, Zen's Chinese Heritage, under a different name. This is one of the things that can be quite confusing about when you get into a deep dive of these masters, especially from China, is they would sometimes have 2 or even 3 different names at different times in their lives. I'm not even going to say what it's listed under because in our koan we're using the name Dizang, so that's what we'll go with today. Dizang lived in the Tang Dynasty. His dates are about the mid-800s to the mid-900s. Classical records say that from early childhood he could speak very well and would not eat meat. Maybe that's true. It could also be the influence of later generations who wanted to put a special shine on a master like this and would say that let's just take it for what it is. He would not eat meat. I've heard actually from many parents that their children, when they're young, they don't want to eat meat, and that changes as they get older. Here again, we see the same pattern as the masters I read from previously in the sesshin. At first, he closely followed the teachings of the Vinaya, but later declared that just guarding against breaking the precepts did not equal true renunciation. It wasn't enough for him. He didn't become a monk just to stay between the rails of morality, but was looking for something more. He then set off to explore the teachings of the Zen school. He first started with Shuifeng, Seppo, but didn't get as far as he wanted to. But then Shui Feng's disciple, Xuansha, is said to have brought Dizang to full awakening. The old records indicate that when the following exchange between teacher and student occurred, all of Dizang's doubts were erased. And this is the incident. Xuansha questioned Dizang, saying, "In the three realms there is only mind. How do you understand this?" Dizang pointed to a chair and said, "What does the master call that?" Xuansha said, "A chair." Dizang said, "Then the master can't say that in the three worlds there is only mind." Xuansha said, "I say that it is made from bamboo and wood. What do you say it's made from?" Dizang said, "I also say it's made from bamboo and wood." Xuansha said, "I've searched across the great earth for a person who understands the Buddha Dharma, but I haven't found one." Maybe that means until now, because, again, this dialogue is what led to Dizang's enlightenment. Dizang entered the hall, now he's a teacher, and addressed the monks, saying, "If you want to come face to face with the essential mystery of our order, here it is. There's no other special thing. If it is something else, then bring it forth and let's see it. If you can't show it, then forget about it." Very famous refrain in Zen, nothing special, or just become ordinary. Because when you really become ordinary, it's something far more than ordinary. Later in that same talk in the monks' hall, Dizang said, "You've stored up a bunch of sounds, forms, names, and words inside your minds. You prattle that I can do this, or I'm good at figuring out that, but actually what can you do? What can you figure out? If it weren't all sounds and forms, names and words, then how would you remember them or figure them out?" There's frequent mention in the sutras of a coupling of words, name and form. And it's in the context of pointing out that we are deceived by our perception of reality by forms, each of which has a different name. So we learn our vocabulary: tree, crow, grass, cattails, fan. John, Jennifer. And these names for everything reinforce the idea that reality is fragmented. It's just that one side we learn. Differentiation. And it's reinforced every hour of our lives because of language. Using different names for different forms, different people, different things, different political parties, different countries, different ethnicities and races. And so it's a hard slog to see the other side of the coin, which is the realm that is beyond name and form. The essential, as we often say in Zen. He continues, the wind blows and the pine makes a sound. A frog or a duck makes a sound. Why don't you go out and listen to those things and figure them out? If everywhere there are meaningful sounds and forms, then how much meaning can be ascribed to this old monk? There's no doubt about it. Sounds and forms assault us every moment. Do you directly face them or not? If you face them directly, then your diamond solid concept of self will melt away. I think face them may be an adequate enough translation, how would I know? But I would say the point is to see into these sounds and forms. See beyond the surface of them, beyond the word. That's really what's going on with these basic questions like, who am I? What is this? It's hearing sounds, seeing forms, or mu. What is it really? Can we see the inside of it? Of course, we can. Through enough concentration, enough persistence, we can turn this world of names and forms and sounds inside out and get an absolutely revolutionary understanding of this world we live in. A monk asked Dizang, what is Dizang's single phrase? These kinds of questions are just ways that the monks would, in the big assembly of hundreds of monks, they would come up with these questions just to see how the master would reply. What is Dizang's single phrase? Dizang said, if I tell you, it will turn into two phrases. The monk asked, what is Dizang's house style? House is rendering, meaning the style of training. The monastery or the center, we would say it has a style. Wind, sometimes it's called the wind of the house. Different centers have different winds. What is Dizang's house style? Dizang, I can't tell you. The monk said, why not? Dizang said, because it's my house style. fish doesn't know it's in water. Dizang saw a monk approach. He held up his whisk and said, "Do you understand?" The monk said, "Thank you for your compassionate instruction, master." Dizang said, "You see me raise the whisk and you say I'm instructing you. When you see the mountains and rivers each day, don't they instruct you?" Another time, a monk came and Dizang held up his whisk, same thing, and the monk shouted in praise and he bowed. Dizang said, "When you saw me raise the whisk, you bowed and shouted. Why is it that when someone holds up a broom, you don't shout in praise?" He seemed to be a man of great humility. He just doesn't want to be special. He doesn't want people heaping on him this some kind of special thing, as if we all don't have the same thing that Dizang has, essentially. Dizang asked a monk, "From where do you come?" The monk said, "From Zhaozhou." Dizang said, "What did you bring with you?" The monk said, "I didn't bring anything with me." Dizang said, "Why are you deceiving people?" So he died at the age of 61 and was given the posthumous title Zen Master True Response. It's kind of cool, response. And then the other character in today's koan is Fayen. His Japanese name, by the way, is Hogen, which some of you will remember from the Mumonkan. And yes, he was a disciple of Dizang. He was well educated as a young man. He'd studied the Confucian classics. He became ordained at the age of 20. Later, he was on a pilgrimage with some other monks, and Fayen and his friends were sidetracked by a snowstorm and forced to stay at the Dizang monastery. And that's where Dizang, the master, was. And that's what led up to today's koan. Where Dizang asks him, where are you going? I'm wandering on pilgrimage. What are you on pilgrimage for? I don't know. Not knowing is the most intimate. It's, I think of some significance that it was in a snowstorm that they had this exchange. Maybe everything was whited out. Couldn't see anything, couldn't hear anything. This book, Zen's Chinese Heritage, then picks up at the end of our koan and continues. When the snow was gone, the three monks bade farewell and started to depart. Dizang accompanied them to the gate and asked, "I've heard you say several times that the three realms are only mind and the myriad dharmas are only consciousness." Myriad dharmas means all things. Dizang then pointed to a rock lying on the ground by the gate and said, So do you say that this rock is inside or outside of mind?" Fayan said, "Inside." Dizang said, "How can a pilgrim carry such a rock in his mind while on pilgrimage?" Dumbfounded, Fayan couldn't answer. He put his luggage down at Dizang's feet and asked him to clarify the truth. Each day for the next month or so, Fayan spoke about the Dharma with Dizang and demonstrated his understanding. But Dizang would always say, "The Buddha Dharma isn't like that." Finally, Fayan said, "I've run out of words and ideas." Good sign. Dizang said, "If you want to talk about Buddha Dharma, everything you see embodies it." And at these words, Fayan experienced great enlightenment. So that's the second one here recorded in this same day with the two of them talking. "I've run out of words and ideas." Excellent. And then Fayan became Dizang's Dharma heir. He went on to establish one of the 5 schools of Zen from China, 5 lineages. The first monastery where Fayan taught, his students there were said to have numbered up to 1,000. The school he established incorporated elements from the Huayan school of Buddhism. It's another school. Not quite the same as Zen, has a lot of overlap, a lot of similarities, without the great emphasis on sitting. And it says here that this Huayan school included the principle in all things manifested. I'm reminded of a koan where the monk asks, "What is the highest principle?" And the reply was, "Each branch of coral reflects the bright moon." Each one of us is that branch of coral, a branch of coral. Here's just one or two dialogues involving Fayan. He asked a monk, "Did you come by boat or by land?" The monk replied, "By boat." Fayan said, "Where is the boat?" The monk said, "The boat is in the river." And then the monk left, and Fayan turned to a monk standing to one side and asked, "Did that monk who was just here have the eye or not?" There's another koan in the Shoyoroku. Where is the boat? The boat is in the river. Most ordinary thing. A monk asked Fayan, "What is the ultimate teaching of all Buddhas, all enlightened ones?" Fayan said, "You have it too." When Fayan became the abbot of Qingliang Temple, he addressed the monks. "Students of Zen need only act according to conditions to realize the way. When it's cold, they're cold. When it's hot, they turn on the air. No, when it's hot, when it's hot, they're hot. If you must understand the meaning of Buddha nature, then just pay attention to what's going on. There is no shortage of old and new methods. Haven't you heard about Shi Tao?" He exclaimed, "Understanding that all things are the self. This is what all the ancient holy ones realized." Shi Tao also said, "The holy ones did not have a self, nor was there anything that was not their selves." Fayan says, "The mind of the great sage of India." There's no need to go beyond this phrase. Within it is what is always put forth as the teaching of our school. All of you should understand that the myriad beings are your own self, and that across the great earth there isn't a single thing that can be observed. This is referring to the essential emptiness of all things. And then Shito also admonished, "Don't pass your days and nights in vain." So this Fayan has 63 Dharma heirs. It says that though his school was an influential one, during his lifetime, and for a while afterward, it died out after 5 generations. And after he died, he received the posthumous title Great Zen Master Dharma I. Well, there's a lot of biographical material leading up to a fairly short koan, but let's see if we can break down this koan. Dizang, where are you going? I'm wandering on pilgrimage. Remember, this is the setting of this was the snowstorm. What are you on pilgrimage for? I don't know. And then the coup de grace. Not knowing is most intimate. You could say that that every of the several main practices of Zen are meant to deliver us to this vast realm that is beyond knowing. We are dominated throughout our lives by knowing. Our mind is scored with this and that, before and after, right and wrong. But there is a whole other realm. In Zen practice, we're not trying to just see that other realm, to see it as not separate from the realm of knowing and doing. The realm of non-differentiation or emptiness is not separate from the realm of differentiation or form, phenomena. It's all very reasonable. We can mostly understand that, but it doesn't change us. It doesn't really transform us until we have realized it, made it real, embodied it, this non-dual nature of reality. Not knowing. Lao Tzu, the great Taoist sage, said, "When darkness is at its darkest, there is the gateway to all spiritual insights." We're emptying, and never more so than in Sesshin. From hours and hours of sitting, we're emptying, we're bailing out the boat. Emptying means cleaning, purifying, restoring the original purity of the mind. Letting go of what gets in the way of our seeing the eternal. Here's a description of the method of a koan, how it works. This is by a Japanese teacher, Zen teacher, I think of the last century. Suppose here is a completely blind person who trudges along, leaning on his stick and depending on his intuition. The role of the koan is to mercilessly take the stick away from him and to push him down after turning him around. Now the blind man has lost his sole support and will not know where to go or how to proceed. He will be thrown into the abyss of despair. In this same way, the koan will mercilessly take away all our intellect and knowledge. In short, the role of the koan is not to lead us to awakening easily, but on the contrary, to make us lose our way and drive us to despair. Fa Yin was on pilgrimage. This was a standard feature of monastic life in the Tang Dynasty and much later, probably as well, where they would take a couple, 3 months at a time and wander around seeking out other teachers. If Dizang had asked, "What are you on pilgrimage for?" and Fa Yin had said, "Well, I'm on pilgrimage to learn the principles of the Buddha Dharma," it wouldn't have been the same dialogue. Again, with these koans, we see the words; they're very simple, but we're not there. We're not standing before Fa Yin when he says, "I don't know." that would have revealed so much to Dizang, the teacher, this I don't know. This is, no doubt, it's nothing like the ordinary I don't know that most people use all their lives. I don't know what the capital of Uruguay is. I don't know the table of elements. It has nothing to do with Zen practice. Dizang that knows that Fayan is ready. He's right there. He's been proceeding toward the obscure and unknown through the still obscure and unknown. A good description of Sesshin. Zen Master Dogen said, coming, going, the waterfowl leave no trace, nor do they need a guide. Our guide is the practice we're working on, the breath, the koan, shikantaza. It's all we need. And we need trust that will be led just perfectly through by holding to this koan or other practice. There's always, you could be sure, this great backstory to these koans. Fayan, who knows what he's been through before this experience of awakening. This last day or so of Sesshin, we have the strongest opportunity we've had so far to find ourselves in complete unity with the practice we're working on. It's not an easy thing when we've spent our whole lives caught in the world of name and form, of differences, this and that, future, past, self and other. It's not easy to let go of all that. And strictly speaking, we don't have to let go of it. That's not our job, to let go of our thoughts. It's to become one with the practice we're working on. The practice will do the letting go for us. We don't have to do two things. We don't have to let go and become one. Just become one with the practice. Just consider Mu, or whatever your practice is, as your agent. Turn it over to your practice. Our time is up. We'll stop and recite the 4 vows.